Day 15, vegan challenge. Things are going pretty good. Today I wanted to do a quick review of how last week went and also talk about some thoughts that I've had regarding dairy, more particularly milk, because milk seems to be what I am having the hardest time avoiding and saying no to even. So first and foremost, by way of accountability, I did pretty good, probably the same as I did my first week. 95% of my diet was from vegan sources, non-meat, non-dairy, and things went fine. Weight loss was normal. I felt great emotionally. Things were good. Now, I caved this last weekend with the Father's Day holiday, and I also had a family event where there were cookies and chocolate milk, and I know I should have been better. I could have said no. I could have ran down and picked up something to satiate my appetite, but instead I caved and I had myself probably a dozen M&M cookies and some chocolate milk, probably half a gallon. It just tasted so darn good. But as I was drinking it, I was thinking of the issues in the dairy industry, and I also thought of the benefits and the disadvantages of consuming dairy for the human body. And that's going to be the topic of my study today, and what I'll share with you is the findings on the dairy industry as a whole and the effects dairy has on the human body.
All of the cows here eventually become beef, and they're slaughtered for the meat, and supporting the dairy industry supports the beef industry as well as the veal industry, so it just doesn't go over too well. But I did find this farm called Long Dream Farm, and apparently it is a slaughter-free farm. So their cattle live outdoors year-round, never in barns. All our calves and cattle have regular human interaction. Bull calves and steers are kept as part of family groups. So all of this sounds really great. Sounds like it answers some of the big criticisms against dairy. Wanted to look at the other side of the argument, so I came across this article on motherjones.com. Slaughter-free milk is great for cows, but not for the environment, is what Mother Jones is claiming. So came down to this paragraph where I thought it summarized everything pretty well. If all dairies became slaughter-free, we'd need 3 to 4 times as many dairy cows to produce the same amount of milk, which would mean adding at least 27 million additional cows to our herds. So obviously that leads to more greenhouse gas emissions, not so good for the environment. And in this interesting note, there's a potential for the slaughter-free milk trend to go bad, just like the craze for tofu and soy milk contributed to the spread of soybean plantations in South America's rainforests. So I thought that was an interesting point, because even though you may purchase a product that is not animal affiliated, it still has some drawbacks. So it's just important that we're as careful and use wise judgment as much as we possibly can. So it doesn't look like the slaughter-free option is the best, at least according to Mother Jones here. So I asked myself the next question, which is dairy really harmful to the body? Came across this cool article on self.com. It kind of goes over some of the often quoted ideas or phrases, like you need milk for vitamin D, or chocolate milk is great for post-workout, all that stuff. And it goes into some of the information and the data behind it all. And one thing I thought was really interesting was the idea that everyone's allergic or intolerant. And according to this article, it says it's true that 65% of adults develop some level of lactose intolerance as they age. So with that being said, I wanted to look into more reasons why dairy may not be the best choice for the individual. And according to this doctor here, he says milk doesn't reduce fractures like in the bone. Less dairy actually leads to better bones. Calcium isn't as bone protective as we thought. So that's all three of these are kind of one idea. Calcium may raise cancer risk. Research shows that higher risks or higher intakes of both calcium and dairy products may increase a man's risk of prostate cancer by 30 to 50%. So that's kind of interesting. And calcium has benefits that dairy doesn't, and not everyone can stomach dairy. So I think that is the biggest claim and the biggest limitation that we need to consider is, how does dairy sit with you? So a quick Google search of lactose intolerance signs leads us to this nice little sidebar here on Google, and it says it's usually self-diagnosable. Symptoms can include abdominal cramps, bloating, and diarrhea. So if you're having those things, maybe dairy is not the best choice for you. Maybe you do have some lactose intolerance per se, and you should limit or eliminate the consumption of dairy. So I found all of this information really useful and gave me some more insight to the dairy industry and how dairy affects the human body.
All in all, day 15, things are going fine. Workout is fine. I'm actually getting stronger. It's probably unrelated to the vegan diet, but at the very least, it's not harming me. Last week went well. Caved in and had maybe 4 ounces of meat and half a gallon of chocolate milk and some chocolate chip cookies, as well as some desserts for Father's Day. But hey, I'm happy with what I did, but I do want to do better. I know I can do better. These next 2 weeks, I'm going to try to avoid all animal product. We'll see how it goes.